Matt Robinson stared at the FBI photo for exactly 12 seconds before his world collapsed. The grainy surveillance image showed a figure on a rooftop, rifle aimed at a crowd below. To everyone else in America, it was just another manhunt photo. To Matt, it was his son Tyler, and those 12 seconds of recognition would haunt him forever. When investigators asked him to identify the weapon, Matt's response cut through the courtroom like a blade. "That's Grandpa's rifle. Not just any gun. The family heirloom he'd taught his son to shoot with, now turned into an instrument of murder." What happens when the person you've loved since birth becomes the person you have to stop? When every paternal instinct screams protect, but your conscience demands justice. Matt Robinson discovered the answer in the most brutal way possible, by becoming the witness who helped convict his own son of murder. The courtroom fell silent as this broken father chose saving strangers over saving his child, and that choice redefined what family loyalty means in America. Before we dig into this nightmare, I need you with me on this journey. Drop a comment right now. Tell me where you're watching from. Whether you're in New York, London, or anywhere else, your voice matters here. If you're back again, thank you for sticking with us through these difficult stories. For new faces, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what we do here goes beyond just telling stories. We're building a community that refuses to let victims be forgotten and ensures justice isn't just a word thrown around in courtrooms. Every like, every share, every comment helps us reach more people who need to hear these truths. We're pushing toward our first 1,000 subscribers, and that milestone isn't just about numbers. It's about amplifying voices that deserve to be heard. Charlie Kirk bled out on a university stage while students screamed and scattered like leaves in a hurricane. At 31, he'd built an empire of young conservatives who hung on his every word, packed auditoriums from coast to coast, and saw him as their generation's political conscience. His wife woke up that morning kissing her husband goodbye, never imagining she'd spend the night identifying his body in a Utah morgue. The bullet that killed him came from a rooftop 200 yards away, fired by someone who'd been planning his death for weeks. But here's what gutted everyone in that courtroom. The shooter wasn't some stranger with a political grudge. Tyler Robinson was a 23-year-old college student who still lived in the same city as his parents, still came home for Sunday dinners, still carried the family name. When prosecutors played the audio of that 911 call, you could hear Charlie Kirk gasping his last words while chaos erupted around him. Students were crying, security was shouting, and somewhere in that madness, a young conservative leader was dying because someone decided his voice needed to be silenced forever. The Robinson family had been watching their son disappear for months before he pulled that trigger. Dinner conversations turned into political battlefields. Tyler would sit at the kitchen table, jaw clenched, arguing with his parents about everything from immigration to gun rights. His mother testified that meals became exercises in walking on eggshells, never knowing what might set Tyler off into another explosive rant. Matt Robinson noticed his son's bedroom door staying closed for days at a time. The kid who used to watch football with his dad on Sundays was now locked away, consuming hours of political content online, growing angrier with each passing week. When Tyler did emerge, he'd launch into tirades about conservative speakers like Charlie Kirk, calling them fascists and claiming they were poisoning America's youth. But the rifle, that's where Matt's parental instincts started screaming. It belonged to Tyler's grandfather, a Vietnam veteran who'd passed it down as a family heirloom. For 3 generations, that weapon represented service, sacrifice, and tradition. Matt had taught Tyler to shoot with that rifle when he was 12 years old. Now, feeling something dark shifting in his son's behavior, Matt sent a text message that would haunt him forever. "Send me a photo of Grandpa's rifle." He needed reassurance. He needed proof it was still locked away safely. The response never came, and that silence told Matt everything he needed to know. Tyler wasn't keeping his plans to himself. Court records revealed intimate text exchanges with his roommate, someone he'd been romantically involved with for over a year. In those messages, Tyler laid out his hatred for Charlie Kirk in disturbing detail. "I've had enough of his hatred," one message read. "Some hate can't be negotiated out." The roommate testified through tears, reading aloud Tyler's confession messages sent just hours after the shooting. "I did it," Tyler had texted. "I finally shut him up." But the most chilling evidence wasn't digital. It was physical. Hidden under Tyler's computer keyboard, investigators found a handwritten note outlining his assassination plan, complete with target location and escape routes. The night of September 15th, Tyler told his roommate he was going to make history. He drove to Utah Valley University, climbed onto an adjacent building's roof, and waited for Charlie Kirk to take the stage. The bullet he fired had been personally engraved with the phrase, "Hey fascist, catch." This wasn't rage. It was performance art written in blood. The FBI surveillance photos showed a figure on that rooftop, rifle in hand, taking aim at a political rally. To most Americans scrolling through news feeds, it looked like any other grainy law enforcement image. But Matt Robinson saw his son's profile, recognized the way Tyler held his shoulders, knew the shape of the body he'd held as a baby. "That's my boy," Matt told investigators, his voice barely above a whisper. Then came the words that destroyed their family. "Show me Grandpa's rifle." He wasn't asking Tyler anymore. He was confirming to federal agents that his son had used the family heirloom to commit murder. When Matt finally confronted Tyler face to face, the conversation lasted less than 5 minutes. Tyler didn't deny anything. Instead, he made a threat that pushed his father over the edge. If law enforcement came for him, he'd commit suicide rather than surrender. Matt realized he wasn't just dealing with a son who'd committed murder. He was dealing with someone prepared to die rather than face consequences. That's when Matt Robinson made the choice that split his family apart forever. He called a youth pastor and a police contact, asking them to help bring Tyler in alive. He could have stayed silent. He could have destroyed evidence. He could have given his son time to run. Instead, he chose to save other people from the monster his child had become. The arrest happened at 3 a.m. Tyler surrendered without resistance, almost as if he'd been expecting this moment. By sunrise, Charlie Kirk's assassination was national news, and the Robinson family was living their worst nightmare in front of the entire country. Prosecutors built their case methodically, piece by piece. Text messages showing premeditation, the handwritten assassination plan, ballistics evidence linking Tyler's grandfather's rifle to the bullet that killed Charlie Kirk. But the most devastating testimony came from Tyler's roommate, who'd loved him enough to keep his secrets until those secrets became evidence in a murder trial. The engraved bullet casings told their own story. "Hey fascist, catch" wasn't just a taunt. It was Tyler's signature on his crime. He'd planned every detail, from the weapon to the message, wanting the world to know this assassination was his personal statement against conservative ideology. Security footage showed Tyler arriving at the university 2 hours before the event, casing the location, testing sight lines from the rooftop. This wasn't impulsive violence, it was calculated execution, planned with the precision of someone who'd studied every aspect of political assassinations. Charlie Kirk's widow testified about the life stolen from her family. No more morning coffee conversations. No more late-night phone calls when he was traveling. No more plans for children they'd never have together. She described finding out her husband was dead through a news alert on her phone while she was grocery shopping, collapsing in aisle 7 of a Utah supermarket. His parents spoke about watching their son build something meaningful with his life, only to see it ended by someone who disagreed with his politics. They'd raised money for scholarships, mentored young conservatives, and built a legacy that lasted exactly 31 years before a bullet erased it all. But the Robinson family grief cut differently. Matt Robinson testified about losing his son twice, once to radicalization, and again to the justice system. His wife described the shame of walking through their small town, knowing everyone recognized them as the parents who'd raised an assassin. Tyler's roommate broke down completely on the witness stand, admitting they'd suspected something terrible might happen but stayed silent out of misguided loyalty. The guilt of not speaking up, of not calling authorities, of loving someone who became a killer. That testimony left the entire courtroom in tears. The defense tried arguing mental illness, claiming Tyler had been radicalized by extremist online content. They painted him as a vulnerable young man manipulated by hate groups targeting conservative speakers. But the prosecution's evidence was overwhelming. Those text messages, that handwritten plan, the engraved bullets. Tyler Robinson had chosen to become a killer. During sentencing, Tyler finally spoke publicly for the first time since his arrest. No remorse, no apology. Instead, he used his court time to justify the assassination, claiming Charlie Kirk's death was necessary to protect America from fascism. Even facing life in prison, Tyler remained convinced he'd done something heroic. Matt Robinson's victim impact statement shattered everyone present. He spoke about choosing justice over blood, about the impossible position of turning in your own child, about living with the knowledge that he'd helped put his son away forever. "I failed as a father," he said, "but I couldn't fail as a citizen." 2 families destroyed by 1 bullet. Charlie Kirk's loved ones grieving a husband, son, and leader stolen from them. The Robinsons mourning the child they'd raised and lost to ideology. And somewhere in the middle, a roommate carrying survivor's guilt for not speaking up when speaking up might have saved a life. This case exposed how political radicalization happens inside American families, how warning signs get missed or ignored, how love can become complicity when we stay silent about dangerous behavior. Tyler Robinson didn't become a killer overnight. He was built, piece by piece, through months of escalating anger that nobody knew how to address. The verdict was inevitable: life in prison without parole. But the real questions this case raises don't end with a judge's gavel. How many other Tyler Robinsons are sitting at dinner tables right now, growing angrier, more isolated, more convinced that political violence is justified? How many parents are missing warning signs because they don't want to believe their child could become dangerous? Matt Robinson's choice to turn in his son will define American family loyalty for generations. He chose protecting strangers over protecting his child, and that decision saved lives while destroying his own family forever. The investigation continues as federal authorities examine how Tyler accessed extremist content online, whether he had accomplices, and what other attacks he might have been planning. Every new revelation reminds us that this assassination wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a broader pattern of political violence that's tearing American families apart. So I'm asking you directly, what would you have done in Matt Robinson's position? Could you choose justice over your own flesh and blood? Share your thoughts in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. Your perspective matters because these stories affect all of us, whether we want to admit it or not. If this investigation resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We need to reach 1,000 subscribers to amplify these voices, to ensure justice isn't just a courtroom word, and to help families recognize warning signs before tragedy strikes. Every like, every share, every comment helps us reach people who need to hear these truths. Thank you for trusting us with these difficult stories, for standing with victims' families, and for demanding accountability even when it's painful. Because ultimately, that's what justice looks like: choosing truth over comfort, facts over family loyalty, and the protection of innocent people over the protection of those who would harm them. Matt Robinson understood that choice, made that sacrifice, and now lives with consequences most of us will never comprehend. The story isn't over. The investigation continues, and we'll be here, uncovering every detail, asking every hard question, and ensuring these voices are never forgotten.